Welcome back to a little bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. A beautiful Monday. We're going to hit 87 degrees, 86 degrees, maybe 90. Let's see how it goes here in La Crosse, Wisconsin today. But some big news this morning. Sam's trying to explain to me that it isn't news, but there's a Shams report that's going out and making everybody lose their minds over national media. And I guess not as much in the Wisconsin media, I will say. Like, people aren't freaking out the way that I thought that they might, which maybe Sam can give us a little bit of insight. But apparently Giannis is, quote, open-minded for the first time in his career about possibly leaving the Milwaukee Bucks. Sam, what do you got to say? Why shouldn't we worry?
It's not news. There's no quotes from Giannis. This is a fabricated media clickbait, expedition. There's nothing solid that has been put out. Giannis hasn't said anything. They brought a quote out from the Thanalysis show from a couple months ago when he said, "I would love to bring my team a second championship, and if I can't do that, I feel like I let him down." That's the quote. That's the Giannis news. Giannis hasn't said anything. Now, maybe there's agents that talk, and Shams gets information from the teams and agents, and there's a lot that goes into it. I don't think he's just pulling something out of thin air, but he kind of is. Giannis has consistently challenged the Bucks to make championship moves. He has said, "Hey, winning is my number one priority."
Well, if it is, I don't know if it's in Milwaukee. I'll say that.
There is nothing new that has come out to make this a story today. All that happened is Jokic is putting up 3 stinkers in a row. Shea can't play good playoff basketball. Giannis is clearly the best player in the world. And the Indiana Pacers are running amok on another team that can't handle them. I don't think that there's anything new that came out about Giannis other than Bobby Portis coming out and saying, "You know what? Giannis bleeds green." So I don't know where the Bucks are going, is what Bobby said. But from what I know about Giannis, he bleeds green. As a fan, from watching Giannis's career, he bleeds green. There's been nothing substantial for Shams to come out and say this today. It's not news.
And this is entirely speculation, but there are some people talking about it on Twitter. And I kind of liked your quote there with Bobby where you're not sure where the Bucks want to take this, because that might be what breaks this off. It might be how the Bucks feel and not how Giannis feels. Like, this is entirely speculation, but Peter Bukowski's pretty good usually with Packers stuff, but he touches Brewers, he touches Bucks. He had a tweet that said that this might be the Milwaukee Bucks leaking this to kind of like show the bat signal to the rest of the league. Like, hey, if you're thinking about it, put out an offer. And if Giannis doesn't want to play here, then we can talk. Kind of just like, give us a call is essentially what the Bucks are saying. And that's a possibility. Like, within there, like, hey, just tell Shams, like, hey, Shams, go tell people that Giannis is, quote, open-minded. And then people will freak out, and then teams might call. Like, just to say, like, hey, we might be open to listening on this. Do you think that's a possibility of what's going on here?
No, I really, really don't.
Okay.
I think the Bucks and Giannis are a match made in heaven. I don't think he wants to go anywhere, and the Bucks know that they would be absolutely ludicrous for moving him. There's nothing that you can get back in a package that gives you what Giannis can give you. Giannis has said they would have to drag me out of Milwaukee, and the Bucks said it would take Giannis coming up and demanding a trade, and neither one of those are going to happen. So I've never paid mind. There's been Giannis rumors moving. The LA market would love Giannis. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They want him there so bad. Basketball wants him in a big market so bad. And it's starting to get funny, especially with something like today happens. You had that Bobby interview on Friday where he comes out and says Giannis bleeds green. Then all of a sudden on Monday morning, now we're talking on all the ESPN markets about how Giannis might go somewhere else. It's just there's never been anything substantial to the Giannis movie. The Bucks wouldn't get anything. What would they get? Like, you can get 45 draft picks and none of them are going to be Giannis. We see this in the NBA. You really need a top 4 or 5 draft pick, which shout out the lottery tonight. That's kind of a big deal. You really need a top 4 or 5 pick to get a franchise changing player. Mm-hmm. You can get 8 first round draft picks and they might all fall 10-30. And you know what you got? You got nothing. There's the Bucks would be foolish to move on from Giannis. Nobody wants to do it. And the fallout from the city. I mean, we just saw the fallout with the Lucas situation. I pay no mind whatsoever to the Giannis trade rumors.
Okay. And I know you feel strongly on that. I just where I look at this, and maybe this is just the exciting part for me, but I look at it, I don't think Giannis can win a championship in Milwaukee anymore. Like I feel like I'm coming closer and closer to terms with this, where we've seen the numbers. You sent me the numbers where the last 9 playoff games that Giannis has played, he has literally been Superman, and they have lost 8 out of those 9 games. Like until there's a team there, where it's looking, it is going to be extremely difficult to bring anybody in. Everybody gets older. Even when Damian Lillard comes back off of an Achilles heel, he's going to be 33, 34. Yeah, exactly.
36.
36, right. Off of an Achilles injury. Damian Lillard is going to be a shell of what Milwaukee thought was going to be there. And you have so much capital tied up within him, and the roster is depleted and aging, and there's no capital to look to improve. And where Giannis is now getting into his younger 30s, like, I'm not going to be out here to say that he's going to get worse, but if you look at a graph of how good players are, you don't look at LeBron James. That's an outlier. Don't do that. Out of like any other player that is not LeBron James in the NBA, once you hit 34, 35, you start to see a decline. I think what we see right now is the best Giannis Antetokounmpo. You were missing Damian Lillard. You're probably going to be missing him next year, and you're going to be missing the Damian Lillard that you thought you were going to have probably for the rest of time. And where it stands right now, you don't have your 2031 first. You don't have any draft capital until 2031. Your cap space is torn up. I understand that you get a little bit better with no more Brook Lopez on the books, but this situation stinks because I think it's a lose-lose situation if Giannis stays in Milwaukee. And that'll be my rebuttal.
They do have some first-round picks. They have pick swaps with New Orleans until 2031. I believe they have 2 of them. So that whether it's a young guy that they can flip right away, but the no draft capital is like we do have a couple first-round draft picks. Who was the second best player when the Warriors beat the Celtics a couple years ago for the championship? Who's the second best player on that Warriors team?
On that Warriors team? Mm-hmm. They beat the Celtics. I suppose Clay was not great, was he?
Not that great. It was either Clay or Jordan Poole. Who is the second best player when the Nuggets won the championship with Jokic?
But you get deeper than that. That's you need depth. Like
who was the second best player when the Mavericks, when Dirk won it? Like you need a system. You don't need 5 all-stars.
Where does this system come from, Sam? There is no system to be built when you have no capital.
New coach.
I mean,
system. You need a really good player and a quality system. Giannis gives us a chance. We just got to put the right pieces around him. And moving on from him, you just get further away from the goal.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe this is me having to come to terms with the Milwaukee Brewers not being able to keep anybody through a second contract and just, hey, at least we got something for him instead of keeping him for a year and then letting him walk immediately after, like a Corbin Burns or a Josh Hader. When you traded him away in points where I think those teams could have made a run at a World Series, and maybe the Bucks right now, anytime you have Giannis, you're right. Yeah, there is that chance that you can make it all the way there. I feel like we've seen this story time and time again, and I feel like this is similar to how we saw the end of Rodgers' tenure in Green Bay, where you can get to the playoffs and say, what's happening? What's going on? Okay, maybe this is the year. And just time and time again, it's maybe not necessarily Aaron Rodgers, but it feels like there is something left to be desired with the players or the system or whatever it may be around that star player that is keeping you from advancing and getting closer to another ring.
If you want to compare it to Aaron Rodgers, let's compare it to 2015, 2016 Aaron Rodgers, right?
I mean, why?
Similar ages, but turns out Wow, still almost like a goated player. Got a couple MVP runs still in the tank. Still can get out there and absolutely ball. These aren't old men that we're talking about. If we're doing that Rodgers thing, then I think we're in that 2015, 2016. Let's retool a little bit. Give the guy another
How?
shot. Get the right guys. I mean, we can go. Horst has
That's what I'm
always gone up.
saying. The retool with what?
Yeah, there's Kevin Porter Jr.'s out there. There's Gary Trent was just a minimum wage guy, a vet minimum guy, and he put 37 up in a playoff game. Put 30 plus on multiple occasions. There's vet min guys out there. You need a really good player and a solid system. Look what the Indiana Pacers are doing right now. Who's good on that? Like Miles Turner has a role and he knows his role. Nemhart has a role and he knows his role. Tyrese Halliburton just had an absolute stinker of a day yesterday. I think he was 1 for 5, probably put up less than 15 points again. And Indiana routed the Cavs. A really good Cavs team, a little bit injured, but a really good Cavs team because they have a good player and a quality system and they know who they are. If we're doing the Rodgers thing, this is 2016 Aaron Rodgers. And as far as the Brewers thing, the Brewers don't want to keep their good players.
I'm just saying that's like the way that I feel. Well, they feel that they need to retool because they know that they're going to be gone anyway. They'd rather get something back instead of taking 1 year and feeling like we're putting this much on that 1 year to have with a Corbin Burns or a Josh Hader. Sure. And they would rather get something back, where maybe that's in my mind where I'm just thinking, I don't see a ring at the end of this. And I would put cold hard cash on the fact that I don't think Giannis will. I mean, yeah, sure, $20 and we'll go on in 10 years. and you can.
I'm gonna need some plus odds on this one.
But this is it. It just stinks. I'm excited to see what happens. But just looking at the way that things are being run, Doc Rivers is still in that building. And I think that's something where it literally should have been the day after. I am concerned the way that things are being run right now, the fact that he has not been told that he has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. It feels like a directionless thing right now. And it feels like it's been directionless the last couple of years. And that worries me. That concerns me. That is an organizational thing. And I think that the organization as a whole has been a failure to one of the greatest players of all time. And that's where I feel. And it
comes down to, but the injury thing, it has to be brought up. I mean, the past 3-4 postseasons, if all the success comes down, if you're looking at this Bucks, let's call it a dynasty. I'm happy to do that. Let's call it a dynasty over the past 10 years. Back 3 years before the championship, we posted the #1 offensive rating in the league and #1 defensive rating in the league. We were winning games by 12.5 on average, and this is a couple years before we won the championship. This Bucks team has been knocking on the door for a long time now, and in the past 4 years, during the middle of Giannis's prime, we lost Chris, our second best player. Then we lost Giannis. Then we lost Dame. And then we lost Giannis. Then we lost Giannis and Dame. And then we lost Dame. And Giannis played the 4 games, and we weren't set up to beat these Pacers. I think something that's valuable is playing your basketball. A lot of teams have responded to other teams in the way that they built their roster, and it felt like the Bucks built a roster to compete with the Celtics, to say, hey, let's slow this down, get 2 dogs that can beat these 5 switchable perimeter defenders, get some high efficiency guys. And it felt like we built this roster to compete with them. But really what's been working in the NBA is establishing your identity. Play your game of basketball. That's what the Pacers are doing really, really well right now. That's why the Knicks are beating the Celtics right now, because they're playing their version of basketball, not catering to another team. That's how we saw the Warriors, you start up and step up and create a dynasty. And that's why the Rockets were never able to be a quality team, because all they were trying to do is respond to the Warriors. So the Bucks just need to find the Giannis identity, stop trying to respond to certain teams. And man, dude, you got 34, you got a shot. And even if I'd rather see us go 0-82 with Giannis on the team than move on from him. I really would.
Yeah. Go down swinging. So you
changed the city of Milwaukee.
Oh, 100%. And then he will always be Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's never going to change. His legacy, I don't think changes from here on out, regardless of if he wins a championship or not. At least the way that we see him in Milwaukee. Like what we're talking about here is how he's viewed on a national level and at an all-time level, where you talk about legends and how those guys stack up. And what we see out there, we see that legend. And that legend, if he's in Milwaukee, I think has a better chance than not to go out with just the one ring. And that just doesn't sit right, just in my head. So I get where you're coming from. Just wanted a little bit of a banter with that, because it's an interesting situation, and I see the way that people argue about this on Twitter, and it's really entertaining. So if you want to go and get a little bit more of this argument, go back onto NBA and Bucks Twitter, and you'll find a little bit deeper into it. But we'll see what happens. I think I'm going to actually align with Sam. I think he's staying in Milwaukee. That's the feeling that I'm getting, especially with Bobby Portis coming out and saying all that stuff. But you have to entertain the idea. I know the NBA wants us to entertain that idea. And for this offseason where nothing is really going to happen until we see Doc Rivers get fired, which clock keeps on ticking with that, like too little too late is where it feels like we might end up with that situation. But until then, and of course with the drafts coming up, there's not a whole lot to look forward to for Milwaukee. So this is what we're going to have to deal with. And we kind of knew that when it was all said and done after they lost to the Pacers and whatnot. Like, we've expected this. We've done this for the last how many off seasons? What, like 6, 7? Is Giannis leaving? So we'll see where it all goes. But,
And the answer every time is that after everyone's saying, oh, is Giannis leaving? Is Giannis leaving? He said he wants to win another championship. Oh, Milwaukee might not be able to compete anymore. Is Giannis leaving? Answers, but no every time. Giannis has never said he wants to leave.
This one does feel a little bit different, I will say. That this one feels a little different than every other one. There is a lot less hope right now.
Maybe to you. Maybe to you and the rest of the media, not to me. I see it the same exact way.
You see the same amount of hope now as you did 2 years ago.
No, maybe. I trust Horace. I trust Giannis.
When they went and traded for Damian Lillard.
Oh, I thought we were going to go on a run. I thought we were going to go on.
Do you still feel that way? Like there's less hope. Like
not immediately, but like, if the window for Giannis's second ring, I don't think he's going to finish with 6 anymore. But as far as getting the second ring, look, the NBA right now, there's nobody really dominating. Best team this year was OKC, and they're kind of getting rolled by Denver just because it's a team with good players that knows how to win. The NBA, we don't have a Warriors dynasty right now. There's open doors. The East is kind of wide open. Boston's going to have to start throwing money out the window because they're paying everybody $100 million. I don't see anybody so dominant to say that this window is closed over the next 5 years. We'll see what Wemby turns into. Turns into. I'll give him that.
And what happens coaching-wise in San Antonio. That'll be very interesting in the next coming months as well.
Shout out Pop.
Yeah, shout out Pop. Congrats on an awesome career. But, yeah, we'll continue to talk about this, I'm sure, over the course of the year. But if I were to bet, I would say Giannis ends up in Milwaukee, and then I would also bet that he doesn't get another ring. That's where I'm at right now in my mind. And we'll see what happens. I've been wrong about so many things on this podcast that hasn't even been alive for a year now. So hopefully I'm wrong once again. Yeah?
You know what you haven't been wrong about? Rhys Hoskins stepping up. Model of consistency right now.
Yeah, no, he looks good. That swing's good. We knew he was going to be better than he was last year. Last year you could tell that there was something missing. He was a little bit ginger on that leg yet. Now he's out there trying to be an athlete, even at first base, as terrible as it looks. He's scooping it sometimes, but the swing looks good. And we'll just go right into the Brewers talk. It's the Brewers under 500 by one game. They lose 2 out of 3 in Tampa. Really funny series. This one was funky. It was weird the whole time. You're playing in a minor league park. The umpiring was just wild at times.
So bad.
Insane. And we'll talk all about it, but yesterday, the Brewers salvaging a series win in Game 3, back-to-back home runs by Christian Yelich and William Contreras. The bullpen looked nails. Yoel Payamps looks like he got his mojo back, We'll talk about that. Tyler Alexander watching a strike three right down the middle, getting called a ball. Contreras throwing it away immediately after, and the ump just not giving the strike call. Hence my Zoom name Strike 4 question mark, because sometimes you might need 4 strikes when you're without a robot umpire, I guess. But the Brewers salvaging it in the end. Trevor McGill also getting the save. What are your thoughts after this series? Of course, that game 2 was really weird with the Brewers giving up that eventual winning run to Tampa Bay on a play where Caleb Durbin was trying to tag out a runner on a pickoff play, essentially, and Durbin was called for, is it called interference? But blocking the base or whatever?
Yeah, one of the whatever the verbiage on it, but yeah, he's blocking the base.
Yes,
it's very subjective that you feel like you see a decent amount, then it gets called on the Brewers. Or is that like our 3rd or 4th one of this year?
Yeah, it's happened a couple of times, and Murphy has been tossed for every single one, and I can say justifyingly, like those calls by written rule on the where I'm also going to just say I think the rule is wrong as well, and it should be rewritten, but it says that it has to be an egregious block of the base. This is because you don't want guys to be spiking people. You don't want guys running people over, and that's why it says that if you block the base to prevent a runner from having a lane to tag it egregiously, then apparently the runner gets the next base, which this has happened on both occasions where the runner is actually going back to their previous base. Interference is then called, and then they take the next base. So in this situation that we saw in game 2, Durbin was covering third. The runner was going back to third base. Durbin apparently blocked the base egregiously is what they said, which is, I'm just going to say, is flat out BS. There was a lane for him to touch the base. He just went the wrong way and swam with the wrong hand. But then he got home plate, and that was the leading run in that ball game. That broke the tie. It was terrible. Milwaukee should have at least taken that game to extra innings, and then, of course, losing it on an error eventually after that. It was Isaac Collins couldn't field a ball off the ground. Just a weird game, but your thoughts on all of this and what it means for the Brewers.
Man, at some point we got to stop just winning the 3rd game of the series.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not going to be good ball. And it's nice to save the weekend, to save the series with a little bit of a win. And yeah, it was super goofy, but you don't want your games to come down to an interference call. You know, I get in baseball a lot of times it's coming down to, 1 or 2 runs, but the real issue is the bats, man. We're waiting for Wood, not just Brandon Woodruff. We're waiting for the dang bats to start heating up here. So you don't want your game to come down to an error or an interference call.
Yeah.
I love the fire from Murph. But at some point, we were a 93 win team last year, Cody. Like there's a hot seat approaching. We should be better than this. And injuries are one thing. And fluky games are one thing, but at some point we're only 3 games back in the NL Central right now. That's a gift. There's no reason we should be, within a throw of getting first place in the NL Central. We're going to have to start putting together wins. I think St. Louis has 8 wins in a row right now. Chicago is young with good bats, and just being still in the picture is a gift. And if we want to stick around, you got to start winning 2 out of 3s and 3 out of 3s. I think our longest winning streak of the season right now is 4, and we've done it once. Like we got to start stringing together some offensive consistency.
Oh, absolutely. And what I want to see more, I want to see the long ball. Like there was a point where we got into Tampa where I couldn't remember the last home run that I have watched or listened to when I've been consuming the Brewers live. And then, of course, Churio hitting one, and then Contreras and Yelich going back to back in the getaway day. But I think Yelich's swing looks a little bit better. He looked a little bit more comfortable in this series. I've been reading articles where he has been kind of experimenting with either a toe tap or a leg kick, and where things looked really good last year, he switched it up after the back surgery to start this season, had it start to get a little bit better, but then switched it again as he started to improve, and then went right back to below the Mendoza line. And I'm not exactly sure what he's doing now with the toe tap, but People are saying that it looks better and that it's what it should be. And the swing looked a lot better. He went opposite way with that home run. That was the vintage Yelich swing that we've all been used to. And you just hope that that player is going to be better. I know he is. Like, if you're betting, he's not hitting below 200. I will tell you that. I would even go as far to say he's not going to hit below 240 this year as it goes. They're only 40 games into the season. That means there's 120 left. If he can start to improve and get to a point, like if we look at this point last year for Jackson Chourio, it was the same thing. And where Chourio's numbers ended up, like 275, a 2020 season was over a 900 OPS in the second half of the season, that could happen. Do I think it's going to happen with Yelich? Probably not. I think it'd be more likely for a William Contreras, but we'll see what happens with his middle finger. I don't personally think he should be trying to play through this, but it sounds like it didn't get better over the offseason, so maybe this is something that just lingers. But like you said, Rhys Hoskins, he's looking better. Sal Frelick has come back down to earth. What you see now is probably what you're going to get. Bryce Terang, I think, is going to regress a little bit as well. I think those two players were hot, which they kind of kept the offense, quote-unquote, afloat for a couple of weeks or maybe even a month. But this team is really missing the pop, and a lot of it's on the left side of the infield. Joey Ortiz got his first home run of the year right after he shaved his mustache, so maybe the mustache was holding him back. People are saying that. Caleb Durbin, I don't think is your answer at third base. I love the player. I think he's a great utility guy that you'd love to have as maybe the first off of your bench. He is not an everyday third baseman. We have to come to terms with that. I think a trade is coming. I don't know when, but I think that's really what separates this team from that next step. That on top of the home runs and on top of, as you've said multiple times, it's having Contreras and Yelich be the leaders of the team in the middle of that lineup. You want those guys hitting 3 and 4 and hitting like they belong at 3 and 4 in that lineup.
No doubt. We talked early in the season, just like a week or two into the season, when we were playing some good ball for a little bit. I remember you asking me what the concern was, and I said water finding its level. And just like we knew that Turang wasn't going to be a 340, 330 hitter for all season long, we know Yelich isn't going to be that 200 hitter. And it's the same reason that you were staying on Rhys Hoskins all year last year, saying, it's coming, it's coming. It never really clicked for him. It took a year, but there is that consistency. And you just hope that this is the same Brewers team that we saw last year. Like, there wasn't that much of a difference. Missing Willie is tough. Missing that long ball is tough. But man, it shouldn't be this tough. It shouldn't be this tough. But a little bit of injury stuff coming on. And I hope Woodruff brings a fire when he shows up. Does he have a date coming up?
He had a very short start. I imagine that we get news in the next 2 days that Woodruff is coming up. His last start was only 40 pitches. That was by design. Yeah. I imagine the next time that Brandon Woodruff steps on a mound, it will be in Milwaukee or with the Milwaukee Brewers ball club. And I think he's right there. He's right on the doorstep. He looks good. He's got that velocity up to 95. Savali's right there. There have been reports, actually, DL Hall and Aaron Ashby are putting in long relief roles in their rehab assignments. That's what they're going to be looked to do when it comes to the Brewers roster, which I think is going to help immensely. Having those two guys there is going to look great. That bullpen's about to really bolster up when you get those two in there as well. Abner Uribe looks great. Nick Mears looks like he might be one of the best relievers in all of baseball right now. His numbers are just stupid. McGill is going to be a little bit better. And Payamps looks like he might be back to form. Like he just had like a 2-week shart stain on his underwear, but he's back in full form. He looks good. This team, once they get healthy, which you can blame the injuries as much as you want, there's been something missing. I saw a little spark, though, and that was Rhys Hoskins chirping with the fan on the go-ahead RBI in Game 3 of that Tampa Bay series. I saw him go back and say, yeah, let me hear it a little bit more. I think they're trying to chirp him, and Hoskins gave it right back to him. I think that's a good thing. Once he's fired up, that team, that's how they get started. We all remember that in New York last year.
We might get to the end of the season and say, for a little bit, this team needed to tread water until they got healthy. And at 40 games in, we're getting a little impatient, but 3 games back in the NL Central, this is the treading water phase that we're in.
I think so. And I'm comfortable as torn up as that rotation was, even the first week into the season. Like if you would have told me at this point, 40 games in, they're right at 500 or a game under 500, I'd tell you, oh, thank goodness we have a chance because this could have been like a 10-30 stretch for this Brewers team where you're only winning on Freddie Day. But here they are at 20-21. We only got a little bit of time left, so we will transition into the cheese grater. Sam and I each ask each other 3 quick questions. Top question here. I want you to give me a specific time because I'm a lot lower in my emotions than you are. But where did it start to go wrong with the Bucks to bring us to this point?
The Chris Middleton injury in Game 6 against the Celtics in 2022.
Yeah.
It's just the injury bugs. I think that's really it. I stand by all the decisions that were made. Trading Drew was a good idea. We saw multiple offensive, eggs laid from him. He's a great 4 or 5 guy for the Celtics. He was never going to be the second best offensive scorer. So I stand by the moves that we've made, and it's just the injury bugs, man. That's really where this whole thing started. I think this Bucks have been playing like a regular season dynasty. Dame had some personal stuff going on and then another injury. I thought the Bucks had a chance all the way until the end. You steal Game 5, you come home for Game 6, and you got a Game 7, and you move on to the next round. I really thought this Bucks team had a chance the whole way, but it's the poor timing, injury up, and hiring Doc Rivers. Gosh dang it, get him out of the building. Give me the 6 starting quarterbacks for the Packers since 1992. 6 guys have started a game.
I'll give you. So Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre since 92. So it has been just Favre until you got to Rodgers, and then it was just Rodgers. You had Matt Flynn start a game. You had Seneca Wallace start a game.
Good pull.
You had Scott Tolzien
he did.
A game. Yes, he did. Against Minnesota, had a spin move going into the end zone. That is a highlight reel right there for a former Badger. And Jordan Love. Am I missing?
And one more. You are missing
That's
one more. I didn't have Love. Yep. Boom, boom. Yep.
And then Deshaun Kaiser almost started a game. Rodgers got hurt on the first drive against Detroit in week 17 of 2018. Green Bay lost 31-0 that day. I was there for that game. That was quite the game to take in there. Maybe one of the worst Packer games of all time, and I got to be there for it. Realistic expectation for the Brewers as of now. I heard on some radio saying our expectations are too high, and this is a rebuilding year. If they're 500, we should be happy. What do you think?
I would hate for it to be a rebuilding year just because of how good and how young we were last year. It's the same with the Packers. You go and beat Dallas as the youngest playoff team in 50 years, and then anything less than that, it's like, we were a young team. We're supposed to get better here, and maybe there's a little slump before things really start clicking. I want to see the Brewers in the playoffs. I'll feel like the season's a letdown if we're not in the playoffs.
I agree, 100%.
Get in your bag here, Cody. This 2016 Brewer led the National League in home runs.
That was Chris Carter. He was out of baseball a year after that. He had 41 that year. He's the only player to lead their respective league in home runs, not get re-signed, and then get DFA'd within a year. That was Chris Carter, because that was all he could do. One of the worst defensive first basemen I had ever seen, but he could hit it every now and then. And when he might have had only 100 hits that year, and 41 of them were home runs, and they were bombs. I remember Bill Schroeder saying he is going to break something in Miller Park by the time he leaves Milwaukee, and he got pretty darn close. I'll never forget that season. That 2016 year, that was that turning point. With Counsell was there. I think Stearns was just on the doorstep. That was when things got really bad before they got good. And when your team's that bad, you kind of you enjoy the really bad players like that. Like a Jonathan VR, I think, was on that team. I think he stole 60 bases that year. It was, you found your fun in it. And as Wisconsin fans, we always find ways to have our fun. So I'll never forget you, Chris Carter. I still pull up that highlight reel every now and then.
Shout out Jonathan Lucroy, 2016 Brewer legend.
Yes, 2016. He actually broke the Brewers franchise record for doubles in 2014. I think he had 51 that year. And he's an interesting Twitter follow. I'll tell you.
I'll check it out.
In the last couple of years, he puts his opinions out there. Pick one guy to break out in Green Bay in 2025. A lot of young talent. Give me one. I know you want to pick a wide receiver, and I don't want one.
I think this is someone that we know very well about, that the league is about to know well. Adrian Cooper is going to be known as one of the better linebackers in the league. I think he's gonna be top 5 in tackles. Has a chance to eat sacks too. Has a chance to eat sacks. Is going to be flip that. Adrian Cooper is my breakout Packer for this coming year. I would love to see Matthew Golden put up some awesome numbers. I think that if we change the passing game a little bit and stop spreading around so much, I think Golden has a chance. I don't like the having 7 receivers that all want the ball, but if we do hone in on one guy and run a good offense through a decisive number 1 wide receiver, I think the opportunity could be there for Golden as well.
I don't know if Golden's your number 1, but yeah.
Might not be. I got a real quick one. Aaron Judge is leading the majors in batting average right now. Do you know what it is?
409.
Gosh, you're an animal, Cody.
Sorry. I go on Twitter way too much. I apologize. But no, Judge, we haven't thought about the big power hitter being the next guy to hit 400 possibly. It might be Aaron Judge. This might be the most dominant that I've seen in my lifetime. I didn't watch Barry Bonds when I was 5 years old when he was hitting 73 home runs, but what Aaron Judge has been doing the last 3 years has been incredible. And I think he's got a chance to actually hit 400 where he's at right now. He is so dominant. I'd say at least 350, which is pretty much today's 400. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I'm Cody Depus. That is Sam Douglas. We'll be back on Friday. It'll be a good week for the Brewers. They play Cleveland starting tonight for a 3-game set. We'll be back with that and the results on Friday for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.